Commander Zektar of the Kytherian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet rotate slowly beneath them. Earth, the humans called it. Such an insignificant world, yet it had somehow managed to resist 3 separate invasion attempts by lesser species. The Kytherians were not lesser. They were apex predators from a world where only the strongest survived, and they had conquered 14 star systems without breaking stride. Status report, Zektar growled, his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights, and his compound eyes reflected the tactical displays surrounding him. Sir, the human settlement below appears to be a research facility, reported his second-in-command, Subcommander Thrix. Population, approximately 200 humans. They seem to be studying the local wildlife. Zektar clicked his mandibles in amusement. Wildlife studies. How quaint. These humans waste their time on such trivial pursuits instead of preparing for war. He turned to face the tactical officer. Begin the assault. Standard protocol. Capture specimens for interrogation, eliminate the rest. The first wave of Kytherian drop pods screamed through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Each pod contained 5 warriors, genetically enhanced for combat, and equipped with plasma weaponry that could melt through steel. They had perfected this technique across dozens of worlds. Land fast, strike hard, leave nothing but ash and memories. Dr. Sarah Chun was in the middle of cataloging soil samples when the explosions began. The small research station, nestled in a valley surrounded by pine forests, had been her home for the past 6 months. She was part of a team studying the reintroduction of wolves to the ecosystem, but her favorite subject wasn't wild at all. What was that? Called out Dr. Martinez from across the lab. Through the windows, they could see orange streaks cutting through the morning sky. Sarah's heart raced as she recognized what she was seeing. Those are attack vessels. Everyone needs to get to the emergency bunkers now. But before anyone could move, the first pod slammed into the ground 50 meters from the main building. The impact sent shockwaves through the earth, shattering windows and knocking equipment off tables. More pods followed, creating a perimeter around the facility. The Kytherian warriors emerged from their pods like metallic nightmares. Each stood nearly 8 feet tall, their exoskeletons designed for maximum intimidation. They moved with predatory grace, plasma rifles charging with an ominous hum. Sarah grabbed the emergency communicator, but the device was dead. The aliens had jammed all frequencies. She heard screams from the outer buildings as the attack began in earnest. The Kytherians moved methodically, securing each structure and rounding up the humans they found. Sarah, Dr. Martinez appeared at her side, his face pale with terror. The communications array is destroyed. We can't call for help. Through the chaos and smoke, Sarah caught sight of something that made her blood run cold. Her German shepherd, Max, was running toward the main facility. The dog had been with her for 5 years, rescued from a shelter, and trained as both companion and research assistant. His intelligence was remarkable, his loyalty absolute. Max had been in the outer kennels with the other research animals when the attack began. Somehow, he had escaped and was now racing through the battlefield to reach her. Sarah watched in horror as 3 Kytherian warriors noticed the dog's approach. Zektar materialized near the main building through personal teleportation technology. The human facility was already falling, as expected. His warriors were efficient, professional, but something small and brown was moving rapidly across his field of vision. What is that creature? He asked Subcommander Thrix, who had appeared beside him. Thrix consulted his scanner. Local fauna. Designation, Canis lupus familiaris. A domesticated subspecies the humans call dog. Harmless. The animal was barking frantically as it ran toward one of the human structures. Zektar observed its behavior with mild interest. On his homeworld, pets were considered a sign of weakness. Resources spent on non-functional creatures were resources wasted. Shall we eliminate it, sir? Asked Warrior Grix, raising his plasma rifle. No, Zektar replied. Let it live for now. We may learn something about human psychological weaknesses from their attachment to useless animals. But Warrior Grix had different ideas. He had lost 2 clutch brothers in the previous campaign against the Arcturian rebels. His hatred for anything that brought comfort to their enemies ran deep. When Zektar turned to observe the capture of human specimens, Grix took aim. The plasma bolt struck Max in the side, sending the dog tumbling across the scorched earth. The animal yelped once, a sound of pure agony, before lying still. Sarah's scream cut through the din of battle like a blade. She saw Max fall, saw the smoke rising from his fur, and something inside her snapped. The brilliant scientist, the careful researcher, the woman who had spent her life studying the delicate balance of nature, disappeared. What remained was something far more primitive and infinitely more dangerous. "You killed him," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Then, louder, "You killed him." Dr. Martinez tried to hold her back, but Sarah broke free with strength born of pure rage. She grabbed a piece of twisted metal from a destroyed computer terminal and ran toward the Kytherian warrior who had shot Max. Grix barely noticed the human female charging toward him. Humans were weak, small, pathetic creatures. He turned his weapon toward her with casual indifference. But Sarah was no longer thinking like a human. She was thinking like Max would have, like the wolves she studied, like every protective parent that had ever existed in Earth's 4-billion-year history. She dodged the first plasma bolt with reflexes she didn't know she possessed, rolled under the second, and drove the jagged metal into the gap between Grix's helmet and chest armor. The Kytherian warrior stumbled backward, green blood spraying from the wound. His mandibles clicked in shock and pain. A human had wounded him. A small, soft, weak human had actually drawn his blood. Sarah didn't stop. She grabbed Grix's fallen rifle and opened fire on the nearest group of warriors. The weapon was heavy and unfamiliar, but her finger found the trigger and held it down. Plasma bolts scattered across the battlefield, striking equipment, buildings, and 2 more Kytherians. Other humans emerged from hiding, inspired by Sarah's desperate courage. Dr. Martinez appeared with a hunting rifle he kept for protection against wild animals. Dr. Yamamoto had found an emergency flare gun. One of the graduate students wielded a shovel like a war club. But it wasn't their weapons that concerned Zektar as he watched the battle unfold. It was the look in their eyes. He had seen that expression before, on his own homeworld, in the eyes of Mother Kytherians defending their egg clusters. It was the look of a creature that had abandoned all concern for its own survival. "Sir," Subcommander Thrix's voice carried a note of uncertainty. "The humans are fighting back with unusual ferocity. Their tactics are becoming unpredictable." Zektar observed Sarah as she helped a wounded colleague while simultaneously laying down covering fire. The human female who had attacked Grix was coordinating the defense now, shouting orders in their primitive language. Her movements were sharp, efficient, deadly. "What changed?" he muttered to himself. Then, he saw the small brown body lying near the main building, and understanding dawned. The animal. They are fighting for the animal. This was unprecedented in Zektar's experience. Species fought for territory, for resources, for survival. But these humans were risking everything for a creature that served no apparent military or economic purpose. It was fascinating and deeply troubling. Sarah knelt beside Max's still form for just a moment, her hand touching his fur. The dog's breathing was shallow but present. He was alive, barely, but alive. That spark of hope transformed her rage into something even more dangerous: determination. She looked up at the Kytherian forces surrounding them and spoke in a voice that carried across the battlefield. "You made a mistake. You could have taken our buildings, our equipment, even our lives. But you hurt my dog. Now you're going to learn why humans conquered this planet in the first place." The words meant nothing to the Kytherians, but the tone was universal. Zektar felt something he had not experienced in many cycles of warfare: unease. These humans were not behaving according to any tactical manual or psychological profile in their databases. As the first day of battle drew to a close, the small research station had become a fortress. The humans had fortified their position using equipment and debris, created overlapping fields of fire, and established communication through hand signals and improvised codes. Most troubling of all, they showed no signs of surrendering. "Sir," Thrix reported, "we have sustained 12 casualties, including Warrior Grix, who remains in critical condition. The humans have lost only 3 individuals, but continue fighting with increasing effectiveness." Zektar stared at the small compound below. 12 Kytherian warriors injured or dead, stopped by 200 humans with improvised weapons and scientific equipment. His superiors would not be pleased with this report. "Bring up the heavy assault units," he commanded. "If these humans wish to die for their pets, we shall accommodate them." But, as night fell over the battlefield, neither Zektar nor his warriors understood what they had truly awakened. Word of the attack was already spreading beyond the isolated research station. Automated emergency beacons, hardened against jamming, were transmitting a simple message to every human military installation on Earth: aliens have landed. They shot our dog. In military bases across the planet, soldiers were checking their weapons and asking for immediate deployment. In orbital stations, fleet commanders were calculating jump coordinates. In the deepest bunkers of Earth's government, officials were authorizing the use of weapons that had been theoretical just hours before. The Kytherians had invaded 14 worlds and emerged victorious every time. But they had never encountered a species that would declare total war over a wounded animal. They had never faced the fury of humans who believed their family had been threatened. Max's labored breathing continued through the night as Sarah and her colleagues prepared for the battle that would determine not just their fate, but the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. The dog didn't know that he had become the spark that would ignite the greatest conflict in galactic history. All he knew was that his human was beside him, and that was enough. The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the low vibration of anti-gravity generators, its crystalline walls reflecting the bioluminescent glow of 1,000 different species. Ambassador Sarah Chan stood at the central podium, her simple human appearance almost laughably primitive compared to the towering Zephyrians with their 6 arms, the crystalline Vortani who existed partially in another dimension, or the gas cloud nebulans floating in their containment fields. The chamber fell silent as Council Prime Zektar of the Hegemony raised one of his 4 heads. His voice echoed through translation matrices, carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Human Representative Chun, your species has been found in violation of Galactic Statute 847 Delta. Your people's aggressive expansion, your refusal to submit to proper genetic modification protocols, and your continued insistence on maintaining primitive military forces constitute a clear threat to galactic peace." Sarah's jaw tightened. She had expected this moment for months, ever since the Council had begun passing increasingly restrictive laws targeting human colonies. The other species had grown uncomfortable with humanity's rapid technological advancement, and their stubborn refusal to abandon what the Council termed barbaric individualism. "With respect, Council Prime," Sarah replied, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, "humanity has never violated the core principles of the Galactic Compact. We have defended ourselves when attacked, we have honored our trade agreements, and we have contributed significantly to galactic scientific advancement." A ripple of what might have been laughter emanated from the Caraxian delegate, their insectoid features clicking in amusement. "Contributed? Your species has been a galactic member for barely 2 centuries. The Caraxian Empire has guided galactic civilization for over 50,000 years. And in those 50,000 years," Sarah shot back, "you've made fewer breakthrough discoveries than humanity has in the last 50. Our quantum computing networks, our bioadaptive starship hulls, our dimensional fold engines, primitive tinkering, interrupted high Counselor Velnara of the Ethereal Collective, her translucent form shimmering with disdain. Your species lacks the patience for true advancement. You rush forward without contemplating the consequences." Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing humanitarian missions, technological patents, and defensive actions. "These are the consequences. Save colonies, cured diseases, improved living standards across the galaxy. When the Scourge Plague threatened to wipe out the Altarian system, it was human scientists who developed the cure. When pirates attacked the trade routes near Kepler 442, it was human ships that drove them off." Council Prime Zektar's multiple heads conferred among themselves before he spoke again. "The Council has made its decision. Humanity is to be placed under administrative oversight. All human military vessels will be decommissioned. All human colonies beyond your home system will be transferred to Council administration. Human population growth will be regulated according to galactic sustainability protocols. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Administrative oversight meant slavery in all but name. Other species who had been placed under such measures had gradually lost their identity, their culture, their very will to exist as independent beings. "This is unconscionable," Sarah said, her diplomatic training warring with her growing anger. "You're condemning an entire species for the crime of success." Success. The Vortani delegate's crystalline form pulsed with harsh light. "Your success comes at the expense of galactic stability. In 2 centuries, you have established over 300 colonies. You reproduce at rates that strain local ecosystems. Your military vessels utilize technologies that could easily be weaponized beyond current treaty limitations. Because we've had to defend ourselves against pirates, raiders, and aggressive neighbors," Sarah countered. "The same threats that have existed in this galaxy for millennia, but which the Council has consistently failed to address." High Counselor Velnara's form brightened. "The Council maintains order through careful balance. Your species disrupts that balance." Sarah looked around the chamber, seeing the faces, or equivalent sensory organs, of delegates from over 200 species. Once, she had been proud to stand among them as an equal. Now she saw them for what they truly were, an oligarchy of ancient powers who saw humanity's rapid advancement as a threat to their comfortable status quo. "I see," Sarah said quietly. "This isn't about galactic peace or stability. This is about fear. Fear that humans might surpass you. Fear that our primitive ideas about individual freedom and technological progress might spread to other species. Fear that your millennia-old power structure might crumble if beings are allowed to choose their own destiny." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds, clicks, whistles, harmonic resonances, and electromagnetic pulses that the translation matrix struggled to convert into coherent protest. Council Prime Zektar's 4 heads turned toward each other in rapid conference before facing Sarah again. "The decision is final. Humanity will submit to Council oversight or face immediate sanctions, including complete trade embargo and potential military action." Sarah stood silent for a long moment, feeling the weight of her entire species' future on her shoulders. Then, she reached into her diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small device, a quantum communicator linked directly to Earth's government. "Before I respond to your ultimatum," she said, "I need to consult with my people." The communicator crackled to life, and within moments, Sarah was connected to President Morrison, the heads of the Colonial Council, and military leadership. The conversation was brief, conducted in rapid English that the translation matrix rendered for the Council delegates. When Sarah deactivated the communicator, her expression had changed. The diplomatic mask was gone, replaced by something harder, more determined. "The United Earth Government and Colonial Council have considered your ultimatum," she announced. "We reject it completely." Council Prime Zektar's heads reared back in surprise. "You refuse? Even knowing the consequences?" "We refuse because we know the consequences," Sarah replied. "Administrative oversight means the slow death of human civilization. You offer us survival at the cost of everything that makes us who we are. Then you choose sanctions and potential military action," High Councilor Velnara said, her form pulsing with what might have been satisfaction. Sarah smiled, and there was something in that expression that made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats, pods, or floating apparatus. "No," she said. "We choose to leave." The chamber fell into stunned silence. In the 3-million-year history of the Galactic Council, no species had ever voluntarily withdrawn from galactic civilization. "Leave?" The Caraxian delegates' clicking became rapid and agitated. "Leave to go where? This is the galaxy. There is nowhere else." "Isn't there?" Sarah activated her personal holographic display, showing star charts that extended beyond the galaxy's rim. "Humanity has always been explorers. We've been planning extragalactic expeditions for decades. Your ultimatum has simply accelerated our timeline. Council Prime Zektar leaned forward, his forehead moving in agitation. You're talking about crossing the intergalactic void. Such a journey would take millions of years, even with your fastest ships. Would it? Sarah's smile widened. You've consistently underestimated human ingenuity. Our dimensional fold technology, combined with new developments in quantum tunneling that we've kept confidential, suggests otherwise. The lies came easily. Humanity didn't yet have reliable intergalactic travel capability, but the Council didn't need to know that. What mattered was planting the seed of doubt, the realization that they might be making a catastrophic mistake. High Counselor Velnaraz's form flickered. Even if such technology existed, you would be leaving behind everything. Trade networks, technological exchange, the security of galactic civilization. Security? Sarah laughed, and the sound was sharp and bitter. What security? The security of knowing that our children will be raised according to your standards? The security of having our colonies administered by beings who see us as an inconvenience? The security of watching our culture slowly disappear under the weight of your guidance? She gestured to the chamber around them. This isn't security, it's a gilded cage. And humanity has never been comfortable in cages. The Vertani delegates' crystalline form pulsed urgently. You're being emotional, irrational. Consider the scientific knowledge you'll lose access to, the technologies we could share, the same technologies you've been restricting human access to for the past 50 years. Sarah interrupted. The same scientific knowledge you've classified as too advanced for our species? We've learned to make do without your help before. Council Prime Zektar's heads conferred rapidly among themselves. Even assuming you have the technology for such a journey, the resources required would be astronomical. You would need to evacuate hundreds of millions of beings, dismantle entire industrial complexes. The logistics are already in motion, Sarah said calmly. Humanity has been preparing for this possibility longer than you might think. This was another bluff, but a calculated one. Human leadership had indeed drawn up contingency plans for various scenarios, including complete withdrawal from galactic society. They hadn't expected to need them quite so soon. The chamber erupted in heated discussion as delegates conferred among themselves. Sarah could see the uncertainty in their movements, hear it in the translated fragments of conversation that leaked through their privacy filters. Finally, the ethereal High Counselor spoke. This is madness. You're condemning your species to isolation, possibly extinction. Are we? Sarah asked. Or are we choosing freedom over comfortable slavery? You see, Counselor, that's the fundamental difference between humanity and the species represented in this chamber. You value stability, order, control growth. We value freedom, even if it comes with risk. Freedom to do what? The Caraxian delegates' clicks were sharp with frustration. Freedom to repeat the mistakes of countless other young species? Freedom to destroy yourselves through unchecked aggression. Sarah's expression grew serious. Freedom to succeed or fail on our own terms. Freedom to explore possibilities you've never considered. Freedom to discover what lies beyond the boundaries you've set for yourselves. She paused, looking around the chamber one final time. Do you know what you've never asked yourselves? In your millions of years of galactic civilization, with all your accumulated wisdom and technology, why haven't you ever seriously considered extragalactic exploration? The silence stretched uncomfortably. It's because you're afraid, Sarah continued. Afraid of the unknown. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of discovering that your way isn't the only way or even the best way. Council Prime Zektar straightened, his forehead moving in synchronized annoyance. We are being practical. The intergalactic void is hostile, empty, dangerous. So is the ocean to our ancestors. So is the vacuum of space. So is this galaxy when we first left our star system. Sarah's voice grew stronger. Fear of the unknown has never stopped humanity before. It won't stop us now. She gathered her diplomatic materials and prepared to leave the podium. The evacuation begins immediately. All human vessels, colonies, and installations will be withdrawn from galactic space within one standard galactic year. Wait, High Counselor Valnara called out, her form flickering with what might have been concern. Perhaps we can negotiate. The time for negotiation is over, Sarah replied. You made your choice when you decided that humanity was a threat to be contained rather than an ally to be valued. As she walked toward the chamber exit, Council Prime Zektar called out, "You're making a mistake that will cost countless human lives." Sarah paused at the doorway and looked back. Perhaps, but there'll be our lives to spend and our mistake to make. That's what freedom means. She left the chamber, and behind her, the greatest governing body in galactic history began to realize they might have just made the greatest mistake in their 3 million-year existence. But by then, it was already too late to change course 3 months after Ambassador Sarah Chin's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council chamber. The galaxy was in chaos. What had started as confident predictions of humanity's inevitable return was rapidly transforming into something approaching panic among the elder species. Admiral Krexval of the Hegemony Defense Force stood before a massive holographic display in the Military Command Center on Nexus Prime, watching streams of data that defied everything he thought he knew about logistics, engineering, and interstellar coordination. "Show me the Kepler 442 system again," he ordered his tactical officer, a nervous Altarian whose tentacles twitched with anxiety. The display zoomed in on what had been one of humanity's largest industrial complexes just weeks ago. Now, where sprawling manufacturing stations and orbital shipyards had once floated, there was only empty space and the fading heat signatures of massive energy expenditures. "Ow!" Krexval muttered, his scaled hide rippling with frustrated confusion. 47 industrial stations, each the size of a small moon, completely dismantled and removed in less than 72 standard hours. The tactical officer consulted his readings nervously. "Sir, according to our long-range sensors, the humans appear to have developed some kind of modular construction technique. The stations weren't destroyed. They were systematically disassembled into component parts and loaded onto massive transport vessels. Vessels we've never seen before," Krexval noted grimly. He pulled up another section of the display. "The Proxima Industrial Complex, the Vega mining operation, New Geneva Station, all gone, all removed with the same impossible efficiency." What truly disturbed the Admiral wasn't just the speed of the evacuation, it was the precision. Human teams had arrived at each installation with exactly the right equipment, the right number of personnel, and the right transport capacity. There was no waste, no confusion, no desperate scrambling. It was as if they had been planning this evacuation for years. Because, as it turned out, they had been. On the other side of the galaxy, High Counselor Valnara of the Ethereal Collective was experiencing her own crisis of understanding. Her normally serene consciousness was churning with calculations and recalculations that refused to make sense. She floated in her private meditation chamber, her translucent form flickering rapidly as she processed reports from across human space. The numbers were staggering. In 3 months, humanity had evacuated over 200 colonies, dismantled hundreds of industrial installations, and moved an estimated 800 million beings toward the galactic rim. "Illuminate," she called to her personal AI assistant, a quantum consciousness that had served her family for over 1,000 years. "Display the human population distribution models from 50 years ago." The data materialized around her in shimmering geometric patterns. Valnara studied the projections, comparing them to current evacuation numbers, and her form flickered with growing alarm. "These numbers indicate that humanity's actual population is nearly triple our official estimates," she said slowly. "How do we miss this?" "Analysis suggests deliberate misdirection," Illuminate replied in its harmonic voice. "Human colonial reports consistently understated population figures, particularly for outer rim territories that received minimal council oversight." Valnara's consciousness reeled. If humanity had been systematically hiding their true numbers, what else had they concealed? The implications were staggering. The Council's decisions have been based on fundamentally flawed intelligence. Meanwhile, in the Caraxian Empire's Economic Analysis Center, senior calculator Hikret was having the worst day of his long career. The clicking of his mandibles had become so rapid that his assistants were developing headaches from the constant noise. "Run the trade impact calculations again," he ordered, his compound eyes darting between dozens of data streams. There must be an error. But there was no error. The economic models were clear, and they painted a picture that sent chills through the